Joe Biden has a new commercial out that's saying why he's the best choice against Trump, and it shows some poll numbers where he beats Trump in various polls. And then at the end of the thing, it shows Bernie Sanders from behind, and it's obvious it's Bernie Sanders. And the tagline is that we can't take the risk that Trump gets reelected. But it's showing Bernie as the risk. In other words, Bernie can't get elected against Trump, so he's the risk that is transferred. It's basically the risk of Trump, but Bernie's the problem because he would create that risk that Trump would win again. Now that word risk, does that sound like one that you hear all the time in politics? That's a tell. You see the word risk and you say to yourself, that's not normal. Because if it were normal, you would say, oh yeah, all the campaigns say that about the other side. But not really. It's sort of an unusual word, isn't it? Now, where did it come from? Well, you may remember I told the story in Win Bigly that Bill Clinton used this same attack against Dole and Jack Kemp. Now, why did Clinton use the word risky? He used risky with a Y. Why did he say that Kemp and Dole were risky? It was because the economy was doing well and everybody agreed. So everybody on both sides said, yeah, the Bill Clinton economy is looking pretty strong. So what Kemp and Dole were suggesting was supply side economics, that they would cut taxes a lot, but we'd make more money in the long run. Now, why is that good to say that's risky? Well, it's because most voters skew older. Older people are less likely to enjoy a risk, right? Because if you're old enough and you've got some money and you're voting, you don't want risk. And when the economy is doing well, the last thing you want is more risk. So it basically took the entire argument from Kemp and Dole on economics totally off the table. It looked ridiculous when you looked at it from a risk management perspective. It was a kill shot. Risky was a complete kill shot. Now, where did Bill Clinton get it? Well, Bill Clinton actually was not the first one in his campaign to say risky. It was actually Al Gore. The first place they came out was when Al Gore did a debate against Jack Kemp. And in that debate, Gore said it's a risky scheme to try to fix everything just by lowering taxes. Now, the way campaigns work is the vice president candidate will sometimes try out a line of attack, and then the president, if it works, only if it works, then the president will say, okay, that worked, now I'm going to say it. If the vice president tries a line of attack and it doesn't work, well, then the presidential candidate either ignores it or says, oh no, he wasn't quite on board, this is what we really mean, might clarify or correct it. But it was so effective when Gore used it. In fact, it was all the headlines. The next day after the debate, all the headlines were that word, risky scheme, risky scheme, risky scheme. Gore calls it a risky scheme. Then Clinton took it up and it was a total kill shot. So the real question is, where did Al Gore get it, if we're tracing back this word? Now, Al Gore almost certainly got it from somebody advising, from a staff member. Because usually the candidates themselves, and I think Trump is the exception to this, but typically the candidates themselves are not coming up with the ideas. They're responding to and approving ideas from a variety of advisors. So Biden used this word risk, which echoes back to Bill Clinton and probably some association between advisors, which echoes back to Al Gore, which probably came from some kind of an advisor on his staff. But who advised the staff member? Who was the person trained in persuasion who talked to one of Al Gore's staff members and suggested that risk, and that word risky, was the best line of attack? I'm going to tell you, it was me. I actually was advising the Al Gore campaign Now, I was advising through advisors, and what that means, if you're not involved in this world, it means that Al Gore might not be aware of where the suggestion came from. Meaning that, they get lots of suggestions from lots of people. It's unlikely that Al Gore necessarily knew that it came from me. And it's even less likely that President Clinton knew that Al Gore got it from somebody who got it from me. And there you have it. That's the first time I've ever told that story in public, by the way. And I think we've just come to a time when it's fair to tell it. Now, can I guarantee that I was the cause of either Al Gore using risky scheme as his theme? Can I guarantee that? Actually, no. Because I can't guarantee that, because it's possible somebody else came up with it at exactly the same time. Because the timing was also right. I said it and then it came out of his mouth, basically. So it's possible that somebody else thought of it. It just was at the same time. And it's also possible that the Biden campaign came up with it completely on their own. Maybe. Could be. But look for these little linguistic tells, and sometimes you can trace them back to their source. I'm pretty sure dark came from Godzilla or Robert Cialdini or somebody that he mentored. And there's a good chance that the Biden campaign commercial is at least influenced through a chain of connections to something I did back in the 90s.